afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Friday, May 9th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a bit about my co-host, shall I? Folks, do you know today is National Sleepover Day? It is described as a day that provides an opportunity, once again, for girls to confide in their friends in a way that can be inspiring, therapeutic, and confidence building. Alas and alack, I had to decline my co-host's invitation to take part in National Sleepover Day. Nothing personal. I just don't think it would go over that well with HR. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. Hey, Sheila, how you doing?
Oh, good. I feel like I have many, many sleepovers in this godforsaken office. I feel like I'm just constantly in here and I can't get out no matter how hard I try. It's odd that you picked that one. There's also Lost Sock Appreciation Day today. Fantastic Friday. So I guess it's Shark Fin Awareness. Hooray for Buttons Day. They're not even trying anymore with these things, are they?
No, they're not. But I got to tell you, it looks like you are celebrating National Sleepover Day. It's either that or you've gone to Yorkville to get one of those $350 haircuts. It's that controlled yet wild look you sport, Sheila Gunnery.
These are the curls my father blessed me with, and I decided to honor my family's heritage by not doing anything with them, just embracing them. But it is windy out here where the grassland crashes into the boreal forest, and I am dealing with it. Anyways, we should tell everybody what we're doing here because we've got a very busy day. I cannot go long today because I've got to get something done for our series of town halls that people can learn more about at donegetingscrewed.com. We still have a few tickets available for Edmonton, so if you want to come to our informational town hall, we have people sort of from all sides of the debate on Western separatism. You can go to donegetingscrewed.com. The cost is very, very minor. Just help us cover off some of the costs. Calgary's already sold out. Wow. May 12th is Edmonton, and then we're putting together, of course, some for our fraternal twins separated at birth in 1905 in Saskatchewan. It's a grudge that was given to me before I was born that we were separated from Saskatchewan. But I should tell everybody what we're doing here today. This is the Rebel News live stream. It's a daily show wherein we talk about the news of the day, completely unscripted. And sometimes I'm going in cold. Definitely today I am. So David's going to be in the driver's seat and I'm going to be along for the ride, the innocent bystander in all of this. If you're watching us on Rumble, thank you for sticking it out on a wonderful free speech platform that cares about your God-given human right to speak your mind unmolested by big state or the government. If you want to support the work that we do over there, because as you know, we'll never take a penny from the government to do the journalism we do, you can do that by way of a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, which is the currency that Rumble uses, we will obligate ourselves to read it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our best to get to it. And some of you may know, but I will reiterate it until such time as they revoke our monetization, which, could be any day. It's YouTube. But we are remonetized over there. So if you want to leave us a super chat, same rules apply with the $5 cutoff. And you can, if you are watching the recorded version of the show, leave a super thanks. That's the paid comment. And sometimes I go back and I see those, and I appreciate you guys for doing that because, since it's not live, we can't read them on air. So you're just leaving us some money to keep us fighting for another day. So we really appreciate you choosing us. Okay, David, what are we talking about first?
Well, this is about as newsworthy, I suppose, as there's salt water in the Pacific Ocean. But Sheila, it turns out with the re-election of the Liberals last month, the thirst for Alberta separatism has accelerated beyond what was expected. There was a tweet from Peter McGaffrey. I don't know if we have that, Olivia, but I'll read it. Before the election, an Angus Reid poll suggested support for separatism would rise from 25% to 30%, if the Liberals were reelected. Now a new Angus Reid poll shows it's actually up to 36%. According to my math, it's gone up 11%, not the anticipated 5% prior to the election. Well, Sheila Gunn-Reid, you're an Albertan, a proud Albertan, probably somebody that might be part of the separatist movement. What's your take on this?
I just put out a X post storm on this. I have a video coming up today on this separation poll. But when you dig down into the poll, this is 36% of the people. Okay, so 50% of the people support giving the people a voice. And actually, I think that seems low. I think it's probably a lot higher than that, but it's polite company, right? So half of Albertans and Saskatchewanians support a referendum on leaving Canada. But here's the story. Ottawa's actions are fueling the separatist fire, which is true. The polling data plays it out. 50% support holding a referendum. 30s, to my great pride, we've once again overtaken Saskatchewan in the separatist sentiment. They were a little bit higher earlier. We were like at 30%, and they were at 33 or 34 or something. We've overtaken them. So 36% of Albertans and 34% of Saskatchewan said that they would leave. And this is so far. This is without an education campaign. This is without a polling question. Like, this is without any clear question. This is without the Americans hitting on us and saying, well, you know, you could get lower tax, like without like an actual campaign from the Americans saying, why don't you join us? Wouldn't you like 50% more of your income in your pocket all the time and your assets to be worth more? So this is without any sort of education campaign. Now, this is what's interesting. 19%, so this is 20. And again, I think this is low based on just my anecdotal evidence. 19% and 15% of people from Saskatchewan said they would definitely vote to leave. They don't even need to hear what the question is. They don't care. They're not like, take my assets. I don't care. Whatever it is, I cannot be convinced to stay. So one in five is fully radicalized to get out of here. And the polling data says that it's because Ottawa isn't listening. The polling data lays out pipeline blockades, emissions caps, and Bill C-69. And Mark Carney says he's going to keep all of those things. Now, when they were asked what would keep them in the country, like, here's the thing. Those, like, we're going to vote to go people, they are realists. They're not even radical separatists, because they said we would vote to stay if we could get an east-west pipeline, or rather a west-east pipeline, repeal Bill C-69, or drop the emissions cap. The polling said, do those and we stay. But we know the Liberals are not going to do those. There was another thing. So if BC and Quebec block more infrastructure, support for separation like jumps through the roof, like to 70%. And we know that Carney has said he's going to give Quebec a veto. We just know that. And we know with an NDP government in BC, that's also going to happen. So you're going to see these numbers continue to just tick over 40% in another month and keep going and keep going and keep going. 70% of Leave voters would stay if the Conservatives won federally. So what this indicates to me that this isn't radicalism. It's a rational reaction to Liberal misrule of us. Indeed. And we don't see there's something that can be structurally fixed now. A lot of people said they think a referendum would fail today, but that's today, not a year from now, and not without leadership or an education campaign. And I'm not even sure this thing needs political leadership. I think it's outside of politics, really. So that was my analysis of that. So these are reluctant separatists who feel like they have no choice. These aren't anti-Canadian people. They feel like this is a natural reaction to you drowning and the government not taking their foot off your head.
And, you know, Sheila, for all the reasons you've given, I totally understand the sentiment for the separation movement in Alberta and Saskatchewan, especially this year when, if the polls were accurate, it was indicating a few months ago a Pierre Poilievre landslide majority government. that was denied for so many reasons we don't have the time to get into. And yet again, Western Canada is relegated to watching the election night coverage. And before they've even counted the votes in the West, they're already declaring Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, and the Liberals almost getting a majority. And of course, what Poilievre promised to get the energy sector up and running again, that was such a draw to vote Conservative. And I mean, let's face it, the West typically does vote Conservative. Here's my question for you, Sheila. Whatever the numbers are, I mean, 36%.
That's high. That's more than people vote for the Liberals and the NDP combined out here in these parts.
It is, but even though I'm a grade 11 math dropout, well, not a dropout, I failed, but even I can figure out that means 64% are not down with separatism. But whatever the case may be, let's even hypothetically it's 50-50 a year from now. Sheila, because you know the lay of the land of your province, if you were to ask an Albertan, make the case for staying in Canada as opposed to leaving. Pardon?
No, nobody can. Like, I've been asking. I've been asking. I'm like, look, outside of nostalgia, why do we stay? And I just get, because we're Canadian. Okay, but that falls under nostalgia. Yeah. Give me a reason why we're better off within than without. And nobody, as the political landscape is, nobody can sort of give me a reason. And I guess nostalgia is a valid reason. Those people, the nostalgia voters, they get a vote too. So I don't know. But this is, I mean, these numbers are, like I said, without leadership, without an information campaign, without the voices of no being addressed. You know, there's a lot of talk about what are the Indigenous people going to do. Keith Wilson, we went through it, laid it all out the other day. This stuff has already been addressed. So if there were a broad year-long information campaign where people are like, well, I don't know what we would do about the oil and gas sector. Well, I do. I don't know what we do about the military. Well, those questions have been answered. Quebec actually did the legwork for us on this. We probably paid for it, so I guess that's fair. But yeah, like the objections have not yet even begun to be addressed. So I think we're going to see a lot of movement on those numbers going forward.
Well, you know, that is amazing.
Or on the flip side, as you saw in the data, if Carney all of a sudden does something reasonable, those numbers will plummet.
Oh, I never thought of that. Well, if he wants to woo Albertans, and I've said this before, Sheila, he should immediately or as soon as possible green light a pipeline project, promise no government interference so it doesn't scare off investors.
Okay, but there are no pipeline.
He said the opposite. He is still down with Bill C-69. So
not only Bill C-69, but even if it passes Bill C-69, which is crazy. I mean, it's C-69 is built to fail, right? Yeah. It's prohibition through bureaucracy. But even if it does pass, he said he would give Quebec a veto. And also, there are no proposals on the table. Like, no company is going to build a pipeline in Canada while like a major west to east pipeline project. There's nothing on the table right now, because why would you? You could just go to West Texas and do all the work you want.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's move on to a video clip from CTV. It is Premier Danielle Smith yet again trying to make it perfectly clear where she stands on the separation issue. But I get the feeling the media doesn't like the answers they're getting.
Right.
So let's roll this clip and then decompartmentalize it afterwards.
Ontario's Premier Doug Ford yesterday was asked about some of the conversation going on around separation, and in particular your own contribution to that conversation. He made the point, quote unquote, this is a time to unite against the tariffs and other threats from Donald Trump, not talk about things that separate us. Does he have a point there?
I think we've got two issues in Alberta. One is, of course, working with our fellow premiers and the Prime Minister on trying to get a renegotiated Canada-U.S. free trade agreement. But the other is that we need to have a new deal with Ottawa as well. When I talk to Albertans, when you think about how fearful Canadians are of the impact that Donald Trump will have on the economy, that's how fearful Albertans are that an approach that the Liberals have taken for the last 10 years will continue and damage our economy. So I would like to see, and I'm hopeful that we can, I've had a good couple of first conversations with Prime Minister Carney, that we can address some of those pressure points and really unleash all of the investment that we know will happen in Alberta when some of those barriers are out of the way.
You know, Sheila, can Doug Ford stop meddling? You know, I'm getting a little sick of this.
He's done enough to us.
He
did. Stop.
You know, the week before the federal election with that astonishing betrayal of the conservative movement. But, you know, I got to wonder, what is his motivation? You know, Dougie, trust me, if Alberta becomes a sovereign nation, you're still going to get the ingredients you need to make those cherry cheesecakes. Don't worry, Doug, it'll be business as usual at the dining table. So, you know, if I'm Daniel Smith, I'm really getting a little peeved off about Dougie meddling all the time, Sheila.
Yeah, Doug Ford can shut his mouth.
Exactly.
The entire problem that Albertans have right now is some disconnected, bloated politician from Ontario keeps trying to run our lives and tell us to sit down and shut up. So maybe he could read the room and stay out of our business. He's done enough. Don't worry, your equalization payments will keep coming, at least for now. Yeah. He's done enough to the conservative movement. And if he has designs on being the leader of the official opposition with hopes to one day be in the Prime Minister's office, he doesn't do that without us. So he can help shove us out the door, but it will end his political aspirations of being the next conservative Prime Minister of this country, because you take all the big blue voters right out of the middle of the country.
Yeah, I mean, that has been floated, Sheila, that he is aspirational.
Oh, for sure he does.
But you know,
sure.
And I'll tell you when I'll get scared is when Doug Ford starts taking French lessons, because I believe he doesn't speak a word of French, and that's a non-starter if you're going to be a prime minister.
Yeah, but, well, not one might say the same thing about our current Prime Minister, Mark Carney. I know Alexis got some real issues with his French, so I mean... He might. I mean, who knows? He might be taking French in the background. I don't know. But if he, like I said, if he has designs on the Prime Minister's office, do you think you get there by alienating Alberta? Not a chance.
Unbelievable. Also, speaking of polls, Sheila, Scott Moe, he was referencing a new poll indicating a high level of anger and frustration in Saskatchewan, driven by years of unconsulted anti-resource policies of the Trudeau NDP government. I love that, the Trudeau/NDP government.
Yeah.
It also shows there was a clear path forward for Prime Minister Mark Carney, repeal Bill C-69.
Yeah.
And then I can't read the rest to allow
Okay, so
something.
this is just Scott Moe responding to the polling data that I read earlier.
Right.
And in the polling data, it said C-69 approve major mining and energy projects, remove the oil and gas production cap, which is the emissions cap, and the support for the separation drops significantly. But we know that Mark Carney is doubling down on this stuff. And, you know, they weren't even polled on the canola tariff stuff. Like, and what, you know, in a tariff war with the United States, we were told, okay, would you mind going broke for the rest of us? Would you mind cutting off the oil and gas and the potash to the Americans just to help the rest of us out? And we rightly said no. You won't even let us build a pipeline. You want us to unemploy ourselves? Get bent. And Scott Moe's right. He is saying, like, the creator of the separatist movement in the West is Ottawa, and they continue to put fuel on the fire.
100%. And we have, you know, we do slam the mainstream media often And rightly so. But one of the good guys, folks, is Joe Warmington, the squaller with the Toronto Sun. And he has an article here. When it comes to Alberta's wants, Coach Don Cherry says Canada should listen. You know, Sheila, wouldn't Grapes be a great prime minister?
Yes. Yes. He would. He's reasonable, and he, you know, like, here's a guy who does invoke Canadiana nostalgia to me.
Yep.
And I don't have a lot of that within me. But yeah, I mean, he's saying, he said, we want a better deal, like Albertans, they want a better deal, and they deserve it, is what he said to the Toronto Sun. Doug Ford never said that about us.
No.
He just basically said, sorry, Alberta, just shut up and take it.
Yeah.
And this idea that even Danielle Smith is fomenting referendum. She's actually repeatedly said, I'm a federalist. I don't want to leave, but the people have issues and the people should have a say. And all the politicians who only care what their voters have to say every 4 years are losing their minds about this. And I'm glad that Don Cherry understands why we feel the way we do.
Can you believe, Sheila, it's been almost 6 years since the most highly rated 10 minutes of Canadian TV was canceled, when Don Cherry said, the truth, basically. I can't believe it's been that long. I can't believe this beloved Canadian icon has been put on a shelf of cancel culture. And by the way, folks, I should tell you, in the weeks ahead, I'm going to do a little presentation. It's kind of a quasi-book review written about Don Cherry by his late daughter, that is a tell-all. And you know what's funny, Sheila? The reason why it's been somewhat delayed, I've been going to Indigo to get a copy of this new Don Cherry book. It's never in stock. I went on the website. Every single store across Canada, this book is listed as out of stock. I'm going to reach out to Indigo because, you know something? I don't think it was ever in stock. And the amazing thing is, Indigo, like so many other Canadian companies, they're wrapping themselves in the Canadian flag. You know, it's red and white. Look at us, Team Canada. And what symbolizes Canada more than Don Cherry? Who is more beloved to Canadians, millions of Canadians, than Don Cherry? And you walk into an Indigo, Sheila, I don't know the last time you went there, it'll all these books, Heather's picks and staff picks, and it is the most leftist woke garbage. It's just outrageous nonsense. And I'm wondering if that's part of the deal here, that this book, which I'm sure is in great demand by Cindy Cherry, is not even on the bookshelves. So I'll reach out. I'll see what the answer is. What's your take on that?
The book industry is dying, like the physical book industry is dying in these large bookstores. Increasingly, they're becoming toy stores and coffee shops that also sell books. Have you noticed that? And this is why. Because they don't sell stuff Canadians actually want to read. Like, if I want to go in there and I want to get a book on cooking or whatever, Pinterest already does that for me. Instagram already does that. So if you want a piece of something just to have it, which is why you would want a physical copy of this book, you would want this thing to have it in your home. And they don't sell it because they're selling too many woke books that got grants from the federal government to be published.
Amazing. Yeah. Let's not stock a book that I think has bestseller written all over it. Let's, further the ideological process of promoting all this woke nonsense you see in there, getting heavily promoted, their own little displays and comments by Heather Reisman, the CEO, and the staff. I mean, this might be why bookstores are struggling, Sheila, and have to become...
No, this is what I'm saying. It's because they don't sell stuff that people want. They're just selling nonsense. And so then they wonder, why are people buying all their books off Amazon? I don't know, because they have the books we want to read. How about that? It's just as simple as that. They have the thing we want.
100%. So my message to the left before we break for some ads is less cherry cheesecake, more Don Cherry. What do you think about that, Sheila? Barry Horowitz
well done,
back on the
David.
back.
Well done, David. Let's hit an ad break so David can gloat to an empty room.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA Hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
Let's face it, Canada's economy isn't heading in the right direction. Inflation's eating away your savings, and government debt is out of control. No politician is going to fix that overnight. With Guildhall Wealth, you can hold real physical gold and silver inside your RRSP. It's a time-tested way to protect your retirement and take back control of your wealth. Call 1-877-8-SILVER or visit guildhallwealth.com/rebel to request your free investor kit. And hey, make sure to mention Rebel News. And speaking of gold, Sheila, I see there's a Global News report. Bank of Canada says trade war poses greatest threat to Canadian economy. Trade war? Wait a minute. Wasn't this the idea of electing Mark Carney? He was going to don his Captain Canuck costume, whip down to the White House, as he did a few days ago, sit down and talk reason with Donald Trump, especially in light of the fact that somehow the UK just got a trade agreement solidified. Do you think maybe Prime Minister Carney oversold himself to a gullible Liberal base?
Oversold or completely lied, I think is probably what he did. He said he was the relationship with the Americans is over, and then he's down there doing the Trump pose, like doing the with his fist and then this, and congratulating Trump for his strong leadership.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think it was the Journal de Montreal. They had Trump 0, Carney 1. As the score, and it's what do you mean? Still got the tariffs, and Trump was like, yeah, those tariffs are never coming off. When asked, is there anything Canada can do to get rid of the tariffs, and Trump's like, this is what he said. Nope, it's just the way it is. And so, what exactly was the win there?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think percentage-wise, Trump did 85% of the talking. First
29 minutes to 4 minutes, I think it was.
Yeah. And so for Le Journal de Montreal to score at 1-0, maybe if their benchmark is Carney didn't get Zelensky'd,
that was it.
Handed his ass
that was
and
it.
shown the door. Yeah, maybe that's a victory.
You didn't get absolutely verbally murdered by J.D. Vance before you got out of the White House. I guess the bar is low. That could be considered a win. But absolutely no needle was moved. We still have all the tariffs. Canada remains slapped with these enormous tariffs. However, Alberta is the winner amongst the losers in Canada with the tariffs, with only 10% on oil and gas. So perhaps Danielle Smith was wisest of all. And remember, she was called a traitor by the Liberals and Doug Ford for going and making the case for Alberta oil and gas. She escapes the worst of the tariffs, meaning we escaped the worst of the tariffs. She was accused of being a traitor because she was too friendly with Trump. And then Carney goes down there and is like, thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Trump, for your strong leadership. And then Trump explains to him that I basically own you now.
Yeah. I will say this, because we are the umpire behind home plate calling balls and strikes, Carney was skilled not to get Zelensky, because I think that was the prime directive going into this meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously the Journal de Montreal thinks so. But it was that part, and it was kind of clever when he said words to the effect, Sheila, that, being in real estate, there are simply some properties not for sale. This one here, meaning the White House, Buckingham Palace, which you have visited, it's the same as Canada. It's not for sale. It never will be for sale. Now, if he ended there, I think the Zelensky hammer might have come. But Carney was clever. He then switched gears right away in a run-on sentence to say, but as you know, we're investing more into the military, border security. He was saying things he knew Donald Trump would like and be in agreement with.
Right. Of course he did. But those were actually conservative proposals. When he's like, yeah, we're defending the North. I'm like, I distinctly recall Pierre Poilievre giving a press conference from the North where his face was frozen and about defending the North, investing more in the military, cracking down on fentanyl as opposed to just giving it to people, as the Liberals tend to do. He went to Trump and then cribbed all of his notes from Poilievre. Yep. And then all the mainstream media is like, look, he nailed it. He did such a good job. And it's like, yeah, I guess, because he went there and said all the things that Poilievre has been saying for years. Yep. I also, Carney was also put in an impossible spot, and I kind of enjoyed it when Trump was bashing Freeland, calling her a horrible person, and Carney just had to sit there because if you defend it, J.D. Vance is going to get you, and Freeland, he's her child's godfather. Jeez. Of all the men on the face of the earth, it's probably her husband, her father, her brother, and him who should be defending her. And he didn't say a word because he thought, I must save myself.
Yeah, he took one for the team. Nothing.
She did. She did.
But you know what, though? What a difference almost a decade makes, Sheila, because there's none of this crap that we saw in 2016 in response to Trump from Justin Trudeau. Who can ever forget? Hashtag welcome to Canada. Come cross over to Roxham Road. We have the Royal Canadian Bellhop Police there. They'll carry your bags. There's none of that rhetoric anymore. So that's a good thing. That's a good cause and effect thanks to the Donald Trump effect, I would argue.
Yeah. Let's move ahead because the headline is really something here. Economy adds 7,400 jobs. We are a country of 40 million plus people. Yeah. Like that's nothing. That's like dust. Unemployment rate rises to 6.9%, but that does not tell the full story. First of all, we should be asking ourselves why we have all those temporary foreign workers with absolutely no justification for it all. Oh, yes. Given that we have a rising unemployment rate. But the employment rate is nearly 8% in Ontario. Toronto itself is at 10%, and it's facing a housing crash. So the Bank of Canada said that they expect housing values to fall in some areas of the country. I don't think Alberta. I think we're going to see a net inbound migration just because we remain free and awesome. But the housing prices to fall like 25 or 35%. So if you're a mortgage holder, this is bad coming at you in these overinflated, superheated housing markets like Vancouver and Toronto now add 10% unemployment, and the price of your house is going to crash while you pay a mortgage on what you bought it for. This is an absolute disaster in the making. But did you get your elbows up? Did you get them up, guys?
What a stupid phrase. I mean,
when
Carney met Trump, it wasn't elbows up, it was knees down. He was kissing the ring. But Sheila, I think of one of the most astounding stats Pierre Poilievre offered at press conferences and rallies in terms of the housing crisis that you mentioned. And it was this. It used to be an average of 25 years for the average Canadian to pay off an average mortgage. And now in certain Canadian markets, such as Vancouver and Toronto, which are number 1 and number 2 in North America, so this more than New York, more than Los Angeles, more than San Francisco, the stat Mr. Poilievre gave is that it now takes on average 29 years for a Canadian to save up enough for a down payment on a house. Yeah. Can you imagine that?
This is what that policy horizons, peek into the future talked about. Generational mortgages.
Yep.
Because there's no possible way that you could even save enough to get into the house. Your kids might get it, and maybe your great-grandkids might be able to pay the dang thing off. Like, it's just crazy.
You're referring, I assume, Sheila, to the Privy Council report predicting in 15
policy
years,
horizons,
2040, we're going to have basically a sci-fi dystopian Canada. We're going to have the rich who have either fled or are living in guarded, gated communities, and the rest of us illegally hunting and foraging. Hey, Sheila, I know you got all those fancy bow and arrows. In 15 years, can me and Lady Menzoid bunk up with you guys where you are? And at least I know you'll be able to deliver some critters for our appetites.
No, you better get real good at strangling geese in a public park, because I'm putting up a bigger fence.
Springfield, Ohio, here I come.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. And speaking of which,
dystopian future indeed.
Yeah.
It's already in places of Ontario.
Oh, I think all over Canada, Sheila. I don't think it's just an Ontario thing. And, folks, Lincoln Jay and I were, the day we shot this was, ironically, Election Day. We were in Kitchener for a Catholic school board meeting. We were en route to St. Thomas for Election Day cover. It was a jam day, but we just happened upon this encampment. And this is in Little Kitchener, Ontario. I believe it's 100 Victoria Street. What's amazing, Sheila, is that where this vacant lot is, that is to be a transit hub for Waterloo region, and the squatters have been given a date of December 1st to vacate. And again, what we see this in the U.S. and we see this in Canada, legal interference, a judge, offering a stay for what he called the residents. The resident, look, I'm sorry, these people are down on their luck. I don't wish them ill, but by illegally squatting on a vacant lot, soon to be a transit hub, you are not a resident. A resident would imply a property owner or somebody renting property from a property owner. And yet, whether it's squatter camps or bike lanes in Toronto, courts step in and interfere in the will of the government, the will of the people. I don't see, Sheila, how something like that, we could tell, we didn't embed ourselves in the camp because we've learned from bitter experience that you are dealing with people who are criminal sometimes, who are whacked out on drugs and might own dangerous dogs, if you know what I'm saying. So we didn't embed ourselves, but how is this a good thing? How should this be allowable in any city? And I guess my conclusion, Sheila, that in some areas of Canada, 2040 is today. That Privy Council report is the reality on the ground right now. I think it's shocking and disgraceful.
Yeah, we deal with this a little bit differently in Alberta. We just clear them out. Our premier calls them gang-controlled drug camps, which is what they are. And even if the people there aren't gangsters, they are usually being manipulated by gangsters. And they become hubs for crime and violence. And it is, at the very least, you must agree that it is unkind to leave these people sleeping rough. But apparently, according to these activist judges and the lawyers who take on their cases, by the way, this is somehow their human right to just sleep in a public space, or even worse, on private property.
This is a growing problem, Sheila. Activist judges. And it is interfering with the implementation of, common sense. But we shall move on to an exclusive by the big boss man himself, Ezra Levant. Folks, you have to watch this video. It's almost like it was scripted. It was like journalism in real time. It's a 36-minute piece. I know that's a little long. Every second is gold. Ezra and super producer Efren went down to Bermuda, and no, it wasn't a CBC junket where they'd spend a week there just setting up interviews. They hit the ground running. They had 2 hours on the ground to do their report and then get back to the airport, because evidently hotel rooms in Bermuda, I believe, Sheila, are average like $1,000 US a night.
Right. It's almost like it's a place for rich people to hide their money.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's funny you say that, because that is why Ezra Levant, of course, went down to Bermuda, wearing his snazzy Bermuda shorts, no less. It was to find out where the money is. And when I say the money, I mean Mark Carney's Brookfield money. The trail led him to a bicycle shop? Say it ain't so. Let's check out a clip.
What a liar Mark Carney is. Let's go take a look. I'm wearing my Bermuda shorts. I'm in Bermuda. I'm tracking down Mark Carney's global address for Brookfield Asset Management.
See? No knees.
73 Front Street. Hang on. Is that really the principal executive offices of Brookfield Asset Management's environmental funds? $25 billion worth of assets. The bike shop on the main floor, and it looks like, I don't know if those are offices upstairs, but Brookfield swore a statement with the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States, and they published it to their investors, that was the principal executive office for not just the $25 billion in environmental funds that I mentioned, but for tens of billions of other funds. Why would you do that? By the way, this looks like an amazing street. There's Flanagan's Irish Pub. There's pubs all the way down here. It's a bit of a party street. Look at that. There's Gringo Mayo. That looks pretty fun. Of course, we're right down at the waterfront. Absolutely gorgeous here. About 65,000 people here in Bermuda. But I do not believe that Brookfield Asset Management is actually here in any real sense, other than a mailbox and someone who is in the filings, the principal boss. Jane Shear is the boss at the address of the principal executives. Do you think Jane is here? Do you think she runs Brookfield Asset Management's $25 billion environmental funds? Let's go in and find out. All right, it's 1:24. I tell you that because we've only got about 1 hour left before we've got to fly. I just went into 73 Front Street. I went into the Winner's Edge bike shop and I talked to the friendliest fella. There's actually a Bermudian accent and I think it's lovely. This is an amazing island that has an interesting ethnic mix as well. I think there's almost a Bermudian ethnicity. Part African-American, part white, part Portuguese, part indigenous. Anyways, don't get me started on these lovely Bermudians. I went in there and the friendly fella said he's got nothing to do with Brookfield Asset Management. He just runs a bike shop, but he heard for the first time about Brookfield when CTV published a picture of their front edifice. He said that was the first time he heard about it. I asked him, had any journalist ever popped by? He said, no, of course not. Yeah, I got a question for you. It's not really about bikes. I'm from Canada, and I don't know if you heard, but we got a new prime minister, and 73 Front Street is the address of one of his companies, and it's obviously not this bike shop.
Yeah.
Has any other reporter come by asking about that?
No.
Not a single reporter's. Have you ever heard of this before?
Yeah, we saw an article about it in the CTV.
Oh, really? What did you think of that article? Yeah.
Not much about it.
Not much about it.
We're just a bike shop in their building.
Yeah. So there is something else going on? Like there's offices upstairs?
Yeah.
How would I get there? Like, is there a stairs or?
You would have to go, yeah, so you got the door, and then you go, there's a little alleyway on the left side.
Yeah.
And then there's a door there. I'm not sure if it's key card. It might be a key card. So.
Okay. Have you ever met anyone from Brookfield Asset Management?
Nope.
No? Have you ever heard of it other than that CTV article?
Like here, the building over that's getting built, yeah.
Oh, they're building a building?
Yeah.
Okay.
That building that's going up right there, that's Brookfield's building.
All right. Well, thanks very much for telling me.
You're welcome.
Okay, cheers.
Have a good rest of your day, sir.
You too.
Good luck.
That's good, Olivia.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah,
funny.
so isn't that funny, Sheila? You can go to the Winner's Edge bike shop in Bermuda, and hey, I'd like to get that 21-speed Trek bike, if you don't mind, a pair of cycling shorts. How about some cycling gloves? Oh, and by the way, do you have a harbor here for $10 billion US? Now,
Right.
In fairness, and I don't want to give away too much of the video, I want you folks to watch it. Turns out on the 5th floor, there was indeed a Brookfield office, but it is very improbable, I would suggest, that this tiny little office that only seemed to be staffed by one person, we can only see one person on camera, that's responsible for tens and tens of billions of dollars of Brookfield asset money. Just an incredible piece of journalism, and that's what the point I want to touch upon, Sheila, because I don't want to ruin the ending of the story for those who haven't seen it, because it's well worth watching this video, and it's just taking off, folks, for good reason. But CTV, okay, they published a photo. Sheila, why isn't it that weeks ago, before the election, right, CTV and CBC and Global and all the newspapers, why didn't they do the kind of shoe leather journalism the big boss man was doing 2 days ago? Get down to Bermuda, see where the facts lead you, tell the story, or do they know what the story is? Do they know in advance what the ending is? And basically, hey, better not bite the future sugar daddy who's cutting these mainstream media payola checks. Is that what it's about? Is that how low mainstream media journalism is in Canada now?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly why. We know why the CBC didn't go. $1.4 billion plus another $150 million to keep their mouths shut.
Yep.
So they aren't going to go. We know that the rest of the media has been basically CBC-ified. They survive on a perpetual string of grants and subsidies and tax perks to keep their flawed, broken, and unconsumable content afloat. And so why would they do actual journalism? You know, they say that we aren't real journalists. Why? Because we don't take the money? Because that looks like actual journalism to me. Getting on a plane, which I still can't believe Bermuda's only 3 hours away from Toronto. That boggles my mind. You guys are closer to Bermuda than I am to Toronto. What a huge country we're in. But getting on a plane, going to investigate the tax haven that our new prime minister is parking his money at, seems like it's of national interest, but no. They're paid not to be intellectually curious, and it's working.
And you know what else I found odd? Efren and Ezra did, they tried to do some streeters. I think they got 2 people on camera. Nobody wanted to talk. Gee, Sheila, do you think there's a lot of people living in Bermuda that have some tax-sheltered money? That's the reason why they're in Bermuda. It kind of reminds me, the worst place in the city of Toronto to do streeters, go to King and Bay. That's the hub of the financial district. Those folks there, the bankers, the stockbrokers, they won't even say no comment. They do this with their hand like they're swatting away a mosquito, right? So kids, if you're in a journalism school, do not go to King and Bay. That is a desert for people weighing in. But just a spectacular piece. And let's not forget, in terms of handing out blame to the mainstream media for not going to Bermuda, why didn't they, like Ezra did just before the election, go to the Isle of Man, another tax haven place where Brookfield has its tentacles? So you're not getting your information from the mainstream media as a consumer if that is all you're consuming. No,
I mean, this is why the Eastern boomers were like, no, if it were true, I would have seen it on CBC. This is the mindset that they're in. And boomers used to get their news from Facebook, but, the Justin Trudeau took care of that by trying to shake down Meta. So if there were a hope that these people would have their eyes opened, that door was slammed shut when Justin Trudeau tried to shake down the social media companies for, I guess, to prop up again the failing mainstream media.
Now, Sheila, please let me caution you on your language. We know from a Blacklock's Reporter article that evidently the Department of Canadian Heritage paid almost $69,000 for research that asked, I'm not making this up, folks, that asked CBC journalists if they were the subject of hurtful remarks by conservative politicians or rival media. Sheila, what's that saying? Can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen? How is
Who
this?
do they think the rival media is? Like, we're supposed to just say that this isn't us. This is 100% us doing this to them, and I don't care. I am mad that they spent $70,000 to pull these people on their hurt feelings. Can we bring up what hurt their feelings? Because that makes me happy. Okay, so political polarization is at the root. Sorry, don't scroll so fast. I can't read. Is at the root of most reputational attacks, harassment. I can't read the rest because my face is blocking it.
And violence that Canadian journalists face. According
they
to
don't
our
face any violence. We do.
Exactly.
Their rivals do. Like, what is their violence?
And Sheila, and sometimes the violence is by the state, being assaulted and falsely arrested by Mounties and other members of law enforcement.
Okay.
There you go. Olivia has skillfully enlarged it for you.
Respondents to our survey are most likely to report being accused of political bias. This hurt their feelings. Being told they're in the bag for the Liberals, which they are, hurt their feelings. 56% face this monthly. I wish my job were that easy. Followed by being incompetent, 54%.
Oh, jeez.
Unethical, 46%. And engaged in criminal activity, 19%. So by and large, they are accused of being in the bag for the Liberals and unethical over and over and over again. And yet they never wonder why the peasants are peasanting at them. They never think to stop, like, why are we so hated universally by the people who pay for us? I wonder why that is. They never get
Sheila,
that far.
You know what I think is the most important question about this astonishing report? And I would like to ask somebody at Canadian Heritage to deliver an answer. How in blue hell did you think that $69,000 to fund this study was in the interests of Canadian citizens, i.e. Canadian taxpayers funding the study? Imagine the single mom who is holding down 3 part-time jobs, trying to raise a couple of kids, stressed beyond belief just to make ends meet. Ask her about the stress of her job, as opposed to some CBC bureaucrat that, oh God, they want me to stay an extra half hour today. Are you kidding me?
Right. I don't think that $70,000, by the way, we were never polled, and we are the ones who are the victims of violence and the victim of lies on the CBC. But yeah, $70,000 to poll the likes of David Cochrane about how it feels to be forced to lie about Ezra Levant on national TV, and how his ego's holding up after getting absolutely raked over the internet for his caught on camera lies. Not a good return on investment, guys.
And Sheila, I know you have a heart out, many subjects to go, but the one I want to focus on is, and again, it comes from our friend Joe Warmington. Although
we talked about it yesterday.
Oh, you did? Okay, then the land acknowledgement. So, then the Daily Cringe.
The Daily Cringe. Are you ready? It's Olivia Chow.
Oh no, Olivia Chow is part of a Daily Cringe. Knock me down with a feather. Check it out, folks.
You know how frustrating it is that you're having a great time with kids in the playground, or enjoying the cherry blossom that is really beautiful, or in the winter time, bike around, or tobogganing down with your kids, and then the bathroom is closed. Well, it's now open as of May 1st. It's open now. And not only would it be open, we are going to fix it and make it a lot better, because right now it's not in the best shape. And because we were able to upload the Garner and the DVP to the provincial government, we're able to invest over $400 million in fixing a lot of the parks and recreation facilities, which will make the place much nicer.
You know, Sheila, I remember a day when you'd see the mayor doing a ribbon cutting ceremony in front of, a new expressway opening. Here in Toronto, the benchmark is so low, it's about reopening a public outhouse. But here's the thing, and Olivia Chow crucified herself with her own words, it needs a lot of work. These washrooms are typically shut down over the winter time, typically from November 1st till May. Why aren't you renovating the washrooms when they are already closed to the public? Now we open them up, and guess what? Oh, you can't use it. We have the plumbers and the drywallers in to do the renovations. How does this city even function anymore, Sheila?
She's a crazy lady. I don't think she's from our planet. Like what she said, she mentioned like biking down to the toboggan hill with your kids. You're biking to the toboggan hill with your kids? I miss that. Is your toboggan on your head? Where are the kids? Why are you taking a bike in the wintertime? And even still, the washroom would be closed, right? They open May 1st. She's like, you know how frustrating it is when you go to the toboggan hill, bike down, go to the toboggan hill with your kids and the washroom's closed? Well, then the announcement should have been, it's going to be open all year then. If that's so frustrating. But no, how does that help the person who, I guess, went with the toboggan on their head and the kids in the basket down to the toboggan hill? The washroom is still closed then. This lady's crazy.
And by the way, we have an ever-growing number of hills in Toronto, Sheila, where tobogganing is no longer allowed because of a legal opinion. You know, once upon a time, and I'm not blaming the lawyers, because the lawyers will say, little Johnny slips and cracks his head, we might get sued. Normally what you had was city council saying, thank you for your opinion. We're going to roll the dice. We don't want to prevent thousands of kids from enjoying winter. And now it's, hey, boss, what are you going to do? The lawyer says we got to shut down the hills. So there are fewer and fewer of these hills that Olivia Chow was talking about, where you can ride your bicycle down in the dead of winter with toboggans and kids.
And again, how does the washroom help that guy? The washroom's closed till May.
Yeah.
So he's got to schlep down there with the toboggan, dragging behind him, or the kids in the toboggan dragging behind him. He's got to bike down to the toboggan hill, and the washroom's still closed. So what is the point here?
So Sheila,
she's just taking the sign off the wall? Is that what this video was about? Okay.
But if Olivia Chow's making the case that these parks are not seasonal, but all year. Like in the summer, you're playing baseball and tossing a frisbee. Well, I shouldn't say frisbee. There's actually a motion being floated where kids have to get a permit to toss a frisbee in Toronto parks. Yeah, but if you want to put up a tent and defecate in the park, it's on the house. But if parks are 4 seasons, then why aren't the restrooms 4 seasons too?
Do they not want to heat them? Is that it?
I don't know.
Because you'd be worried about the pipes breaking, right? If they aren't heated.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe you're worried about people sleeping in them over the winter. It is Toronto after all.
Yeah, I think there's always a time like at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. where they do lock them up, right? But that would be like Grand Central Station for the homeless squatters, a bricks and mortar bathroom with bathroom facilities, no less, steps away from where you're sleeping.
Be a real hotel.
It's like the Ritz.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so we've got one kooky mayor. She is just kooky. It's like she's not recently from this planet. I feel like she's constantly adjusting to human culture when I see her. Quickly, I know I'm going to watch this. I'm not much of a Netflix consumer, not of new content. Like I'll watch Arrested Development and stuff like that. But a new Netflix documentary called Trainwreck, and it is on what they are describing as the mayor of mayhem, Rob Ford. No, they might call him the mayor of mayhem, but Rob Ford's Toronto, much, much better than the current iteration of Toronto. And I say that just as outside looking in.
Well, I can tell you as an insider looking in, Sheila, I will take Rob Ford's Toronto of 2010 to 2014 over the shithole it has descended into right now. Lincoln J and I are going to do a series of events, a whole bunch of little mini essays. It's tentatively called Menzoid's Declining Toronto. By every benchmark, this city, which
you should call it Menzoid's Mayhem.
Menzoid's Mayhem. What do you mean? I didn't create the mayhem. It's the lefties there. But once upon a time, 1987, I do believe, Peter Ustinov called Toronto, New York is run by the Swiss. Those days are long, long gone.
Now I think
folks.
It's more like New York run by Portland.
Yeah. New York, San Francisco is run by Port-au-Prince. But it is, those days are sadly long gone. And what I want to see, and I'm very intrigued by this documentary, Sheila, because Rob Ford, I dearly miss Mayor Ford. He was a great mayor for the city. He had addiction issues. And we really saw the true colors of the left, right? When they've always lectured us that if someone has some kind of addiction issue, you embrace them, you give them help, you help them rehabilitate. But they attacked Ford. The rivals on council and the maggots, as Rob and Doug called the mainstream media. Oh, Doug doesn't call them maggots anymore. He loves them now, now that he's the premier. He's going along to get along, or he's showing his true colors. That's another thing, Sheila. Too many people, myself included, once upon a time thought that Rob Ford and Doug Ford were one and the same. Man, no. That is a different kettle of fish. So even though Rob had substance abuse issues, he still performed as an excellent mayor. I will take Rob Ford's City of Toronto over Olivia Chow's City of Toronto, or even John Tory's City of Toronto any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time listening to people who are pro handing out drugs to addicts come down hard on Rob Ford.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to decide where you fall down on this. Rob Ford, my favorite Rob Ford memory, besides where he's like going through, it's 2 minutes long and he's just like going through all the perks that you get as a member of city council, just sitting at his desk, showing like all the goodies these people get, is when CBC's, I forget which, it was a CBC radio program. They called him while he was actively coaching football because he volunteered to coach football. And they're like, oh, you seem busy. He's like, yeah, I'm coaching football. Like, what do you want?
My favorite Rob Ford moment, Sheila, was before he became mayor. He used to be on John Oakley's morning show every Thursday. I know this well because I was on the media and the message panel that came after Rob Ford. And Rob Ford, as a city councillor, would just come in with stacks of wasteful spending files. And the one I'll never forget, Sheila, was I hope I got the number right. It was either 25,000 or 50,000. Let's say it's 50,000. It was a $50,000 City of Toronto program to teach homeless people how to stilt walk. Like, what, is Cirque du Soleil hiring en masse right now? Like, how is that a life skill? Right?
I would go to that. Well, I would, just out of morbid curiosity. If that were Cirque du Soleil like that, I would absolutely go. Okay, we've got some chats, and I gotta film something.
Yep. Okay.
I'm on a hard out, which I ran over already.
I did.
Knowledge is power. Gives us $6 and says the Bank of Canada has made recent announcements. What are your thoughts on the future of Canada? I think we covered that earlier. We talked about the Bank of Canada saying that our economy is in real threat from these tariffs. Yeah, we know. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think I'm more concerned about that rising unemployment rate and the high unemployment rates in places where housing is inflated, and they are foretelling a housing crash in those same areas. So I think that is just real bad.
And if the future of Canada in reference is that year of 2040, my advice is go to Bass Pro and stock up on some bow and arrows. Right?
Yeah. Get real good at living off the land.
Yep.
P. Schofield 10 gives us $5 and says, "Got me, Sheila. Touche." Did I give you a hard time because you said this show talks about Alberta too much?
Oh.
I think that was from yesterday. I think you said we talk about Alberta too much, but we were talking about separation. Everybody's talking about separation. Doug Ford won't shut up about it. So seems like a big deal. Alex Greer, $6.99. I don't see a comment, Alex, but it was good seeing you I think I saw you at the NFA AGM. Alex Greer, $2.79. Let's go biking. And we've got Pina B gives us $5. If the government didn't fund mainstream media, then random small but important events wouldn't get covered by independents. Thoughts? Also, love you guys. Well, whether or not the government is funded or the mainstream media is funded by the government, I still don't think they would tell the other side of the story. I think they are by nature ideologically captured. They just stay in business doing it thanks to the funding of the federal government. So I don't think they would be any nicer to you. They just have your money to ignore your issues or be mean to you. By
the way, Sheila, do you like cycling?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
I'm not a David Menzies cyclist. I have a mountain bike. But
it's the reason why I'm merely fat as opposed to circus fat, my cycling. And that, and full confession, I was obsessed with looking at the cycling shoes for sale at that Bermuda bike shop, because I can tell you folks, those are over $300 a pair. I know that because I have a pair of cycling shoes that date back to 97, and the fabric was separating from the sole that you clip into the pedals, and I was looking at the prices and I thought, holy smokes, I can't afford that. Sheila, there is a point to my story. I went to my local shoe repair store. He fixed those shoes for $10. And all I'm saying is I think those people that are in that kind of service business where people are starting to fix things up as opposed to repurchasing a new one simply because there's no money, I think that might be the sector that's going to do well in the years ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have a bad taste in my mouth of for cyclists in general, because I'm like, why do we keep spending all the money to make bike lanes for you people to drag your toboggans down in the winter?
No. I am a cyclist against bike lanes. I've always cycled in traffic, very rarely having a problem. I'm not one of those guys. So I'm with you on that. And But that'll be part of Menzoid's Declining Toronto, too. Well, Sheila, thank you so much for co-hosting, and thank you for everybody that weighed in with the chat and your generous donations. Much appreciated. Please check out Ezra Levant's report on the Brookfield Bicycle Bermuda office. I don't know what to call it. I will be back here on Monday with the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. As always, have a great weekend, folks. Stay safe and stay sane.